Hello everyone and welcome to this feedback lesson on the speeches that you did for me just before half term. Well done for completing them. I thought they were really excellent pieces of work. So today we're going to reflect on what you did well, what needs to improve so that we might do a little bit better next time or learn from our mistakes. So what you need out in front of you is your original speech and the feedback that I emailed to you. So those two documents open and possibly a third blank document open, which will be your improvement page, which you're going to send back to me. So 3 documents, your original speech, your feedback sheet that I've sent to you, and a final blank document. And it might just be a blank email that you're going to be able to send to me. So like I say, I was hugely impressed by the work that you put in, especially under these rather challenging conditions. The submissions that you put in were persuasive and they were powerful. These are the things that I thought were particularly good. The control of the speech form. It was clear that you were writing a speech. No one got confused with the form that they were writing in. The use of paragraphing and your ability to be able to segment your argument clearly. And going on from that, you maintained your arguments extremely well. There was no doubt in my mind as to where your passions lay and what your ideas were. People have included a variety of ideas and points throughout, and there was strong voices created through the vocabulary that you were using, the punctuation, and the content of the speeches as well. So really hats off to you all for putting in such a great effort. Well done. Let me give you an example of what I thought was particularly good, and this is an example. These are examples from another class, so I've taken the names off as not to cause any embarrassment. But let's have a look at some of these fantastic, persuasive pieces. We can judge powerful people not only on what they do, but also what they don't do. So it's a good use of parallel phrasing here, using the positive and the negative in order to put your point across. This person's used an expert particularly well. As seen in Macbeth, a sense of power can cause a powerful person to engage in what leadership ethicist Terry Price calls exception making, believing that the rules that govern what is right and wrong do not apply to them, the powerful. So this person cited Terry Price here, a leadership ethicist. They may have made up Terry Price, but the fact that they've used this person as a authority on the figure adds sway to the persuasive power of their speech. This person has considered the audience particularly well. Take the head teacher, for example. He wants the best for you in your education, and he wants to do the best for the school. If he were to be corrupt, you could just buy your way out of lessons, or he would spend all the glue stick money on a flashy sports car. You know, it's a good use of humor here, and also appealing to the audience. You know, how much of you or how many of you would choose to pay your way out of lessons if you had the choice to? And you know, in some places that is the case, that the education system is corrupt, and you can essentially pay for the grades that you get. It's not right, it's not clever, but certainly it does happen. So it was a good use of how power can corrupt, and a great example to use. And finally, have a look at this use of vocab, which you might want to come on to a little bit later in this lesson. These hubristic, avaricious, egotistical leaders do anything to hold on to their power. Putin leads an authoritarian regime, persecuting and eliminating any opponents to cement his grip. So this is a fantastic use of great and appropriate, I must say, vocabulary here, and using it in the best way possible. So we have a use of 3, or a rule of 3 here: hubristic, avaricious, and egotistical. And again, using the anecdote of Putin here to expand upon their point. So those are a couple of examples of things that I thought were particularly good. Let me just read you this example of what I think is a really well thought out and well evidenced piece of work in this particular paragraph. However, this attitude is also visible on a far larger scale and a far more dangerous scale. Just weeks ago, Boris Johnson relied on the NHS to save his life when he contracted coronavirus. 3 years after he cheered with the rest of the Conservative government as they voted against pay rises for nurses and other healthcare workers. While he is seen applauding with the rest of the country for the NHS staff on the front line of the pandemic, there is a deep sense of hypocrisy to be found when you stop for a moment and think about the turmoil our health service has been put into over the past few years. So much of what these powerful people do can be seen as a front to cover up the corrupt actions they don't want you to know about. And as they attempt to convince critics what they are doing is justified and morally sound, but we need to start looking more closely and seeing through their facade. According to the European Commission, 72% of UK citizens thinks corruption is a major problem within the UK, while 33% of people think that bribery or abuse of power is widespread amongst the police. Do these statistics not concern you? The fact that 71% of people in the UK believe that corruption is common within our own government, yet nothing is being done to prevent this issue from progressing further. It should worry us, and we should all be doing more to make the truth more widespread. Now, this is essentially a bingo card full of fantastic persuasive rhetorical devices. I've highlighted a few here. The flow from one paragraph to the other is particularly good. The use of transitionary device, however, or you could have used moreover or on the other hand, really helps to join two paragraphs together. It shows that you're sticking with your same point of argument. I've looked at punctuation here: colon, commas, semicolons, question marks. There's a good variety of spelling and punctuation here, which is going to elevate your mark for spelling and punctuation. Remember, this is worth a significant amount of your final mark for these sorts of questions, up to 16 marks altogether. Have a look at the direct address. Our, you, don't want you to know about. We need to start looking more closely, using these collective pronouns to engage the audience, saying it's not them, it's us. It's we are the people that need to make the difference. It should worry us, and we should all be doing more. And naturally, this is the thing that I think quite a lot of you possibly need to consider when improving your work. It's the use of reliable evidence. 71% of UK citizens, 33%, etc. Now, I'm not expecting you to go out and do research in the Office of National Statistics to try and get this information. If it sounds plausible, you can get away with it. You can make it up. So long as you have some plausible evidence in your speech, then you're going to be onto a good thing. So these are the things that I think, generally speaking, you could do to improve your speech. And you need to do a bit of self-reflection now and think about what it is that your speech was lacking. Did you include sufficient evidence? How was your spelling and your punctuation? Or are you just using full stops and commas? Do you need to address your lack of punctuation, perhaps? Are you using appropriate and sophisticated vocabulary? And this is a common issue. Are you dealing with a counter-argument? Are you so steadfast in your particular argument that you're not appreciating that there is another side of the argument that you need to deal with? So what I'm going to ask you to do is send me an improvement paragraph focusing on one of these four sections. And it's up to you which one you focus on. Entirely up to you, but you do need to focus on one and send me an improvement paragraph. I'm going to go through each one of these in detail now. So I think I've spoken about the use of evidence here in the previous paragraph, the use of statistics and facts. In the same way, I think you need to be able to use an expert as well. So call on, Professor John Deary from Johns Hopkins University, make someone up. Call on the police chief, make someone up. You can even call on Barbara, 55, from Whitley Bay, who said, etc., etc. So you can use someone in your speech in order to justify your points. Similarly, have a look at your punctuation. Are you just using the basic punctuation? If you are, you might need to think about popping a colon in or a semicolon, using quotes as in inverted commas, using rhetorical questions as well within your work. So is it punctuation that you need to focus on? Perhaps it is. That's what you need to put into your improvement paragraph. If you think that your vocabulary isn't as sophisticated as you want it to be, now is your chance to change that. You can either borrow from the vocabulary of the previous student that we looked at, hubristic, avaricious, and egotistical. Now's your opportunity to have a look at the definition of those words if you're unsure. However, you should know at least one of these words, hubristic, as we've studied it quite extensively within Macbeth, even last lesson for some of you. The other thing is you can magpie from the model speech that I showed you a couple of slides ago. You can use some of the vocabulary from there. Or you can use one or two or three of these challenging words which you may not be familiar with. Aberration, abhor, or acquiesce. Use one of these words within your own work in order to increase your sophistication within your vocabulary. So if vocabulary is something you want to focus on, those are the three options for you. Have you dealt with the counter-argument effectively? Let's have a look at some examples here. F says, I'm not saying that everyone in power is faultless, and yes, some of them are corrupt. We all know about Kim Jong-un and his extreme domination over North Korea, but... So I think this is a great example of what you need to do with the other side of your argument. You're appreciating it, but then you are crushing it. So this person is citing Kim Jong-un and his extreme domination over North Korea, but this connective is the important word. And after this, you're going to then give your counter-argument to this point. So you're appreciating the argument, but then you're crushing it with your own excellent point. How about this one? We've all seen a small cohort of global leaders act in a corrupt fashion. But can we really interpret this as a simple rule that power equals corruption? So again, you're appreciating the counter-argument here, and you are crushing it with your own interpretation. Have you dealt with the counter-argument in your speech? If you haven't, now is the opportunity to act upon it. Now, back over to you. Have a look at the feedback sheet that I emailed you. Have a good look through the suggestions and consider what was missing from your speech or what I have mentioned that needs revising or improving. And I'd now like you to spend about 10 minutes constructing a paragraph with some of the selected improvements that we've spoken about during the lesson, whether it's the appreciation of a counter-argument, the integration of more evidence or an expert witness, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, whatever it might be. Consider what it is you'd like to improve upon. The other thing, of course, is vocabulary as well, and sophisticated vocabulary. Consider what it is you think was missing from your own work. Please don't just depend on my own notes. Think about what you think needs to improve as well. Spend 10 minutes on that paragraph and email me. You can put it straight into email. You don't need to necessarily put it into a document. A paragraph. Only one paragraph, please, no more. Say 8 to 10 lines of what it is that you've improved in this lesson. And that's it. All the best with this. Good luck. As usual, any issues, drop me an email. Take care.